So, very good morning, all of you. Good morning. Okay. So, yesterday we completed the concept of co-ownership, right now? And we solved few questions also. Okay. Today, see all the questions we have solved from house property chapter. Okay. And see one concept composite rent and second concept deemed owners. These two concepts are remaining that we are going to finish, and that then we are going to start with salaries. Okay. See, concept of composite rent. Composite rent means combined rent. Combined rent. Meaning that it is a single rent which you get after letting out your building along with some assets. So you have one building and you have some assets. So you are letting out your building along with those assets. So meaning two assets you are letting out. One asset building and another the other assets. So for two assets you should get two rents, no? But what you are doing, you are letting them together. You are getting one amount of rent. That one amount of rent is known as composite rent or combined rent. Okay. Sometimes it might also happen that you are letting building. You are giving on rent your building, but you are giving it with some facilities. So the building is given along with some facilities, amenities or services. So along with the charges for the building, you are also charging for amenities, facilities, services. Like for example, you are giving your building on rent, you are giving your flat on rent along with lift, along with some small park is there, some 24/7 CCTV camera backup is there, CCTV camera surveillance is there, watchman facility is there. So many facilities or amenities are there which the tenant will enjoy if he will take your flat on rent. So are you going to incur the cost? Are you going to incur the cost of those facilities, etc.? Yes. So definitely along with the rent of the flat, you're going to recover the costs also. So the costs which you are going to recover, the costs which you are going to recover for those facilities along with the rent makes the rent what? Combined rent. Makes it combined rent. So sometimes it can happen that you are giving on rent building along with other assets. Now, by letting out these two assets together, you are getting one rent. Now this rent will be taxable in the following manner. See, you have to see, you are letting out these two assets together and the lettings were separable. And the lettings were, then please separate the rent also. Please separate the rent also. Some part of your rent will relate to building. Some part of your rent will relate to. So bring the rent of the building under the head house property and bring the rent of the assets, other assets under the head PGBP or IFOS as the case may be. So first what you are supposed to do, you are supposed to check, am I letting building with other assets? If the answer is yes. And for these two lettings, I am getting a single rent. If the answer is yes, then that rent is combined rent. That rent is. Now, whether to separate this rent or not depends on the fact that whether both the lettings were separable or inseparable. Separable means both the assets can be given on rent separately, but you still have given them on rent together. Can you give them on rent separately? Yes, but still you have given them rent on still you have given them rent on together. So lettings were separable, but you are not separately letting out, you are giving them together. But sometimes it might also happen that both the lettings were not separable, not inseparable. Hence you are giving them on rent together. Getting my point? So that is known as what? Inseparable. If the lettings were separable, if the lettings were then separate your combined rent. If the lettings were inseparable, don't separate your combined rent. Now, sir, give example for this separable letting and inseparable letting. For example, I have one flat in the nearby area. That flat I am giving on rent. Okay, so the flat is 2 BHK flat. I want to give that flat on rent for 40,000 rupees per month. How much? 40,000. Now, I have one car also. So, you came and you saw the flat. You liked the flat and you said, sir, okay, sir, I want to take the flat on rent. I said, okay, if you're taking the flat on rent, I will charge 40,000 per month. But while negotiating, I asked that if you are interested, see, it is not compulsory, but if you are interested, I have one car also, which I'm not using. So if you need car, if you require car, you can take my car also on rent along with my flat, and you can pay me a rent of 50,000. Can I do that? If I wanted, I would have let out both the assets separately. But instead of separately giving both the assets on rent, I'm giving both the assets together. This is known as separable lettings. So here, letting of one asset does not depend on letting of another asset. Both the assets can be separately let out. It is not required that if you will take my flat on rent, by default, the car will also come on rent. I will let out my car only if the flat is let out. There is no such requirement. I am just trying my luck, and fortunately, you liked both the assets and you took both the assets on rent. If I wanted, I could have let out both these assets to separate people. Yes or no? So this was what? Separable letting. How much I have charged from you? 50,000. So that 50,000 includes the rent of my building also, and that 50,000 includes the rent of my car also. So the rent of building, rent of flat will be taxable under the head. So from the combined rent, I will have to separate the rent of flat, and that I will be showing under the head house property. And from 50,000, I will have to separate the rent for car, that I will be taxing under the head PGBP or IFOS, as the case may be. I will be taxing it under the head PGBP if I'm in the business of giving such type of assets on rent. Then it will be my PGBP income. But in my case, I did not have such type of business. So this rent of car, I will tax under the head IFOS. Getting my point? Did you understand the separable letting? Now, inseparable letting. Two assets are given on rent together. One is building, another is other assets. But both the lettings are happening to the same person. I am recovering one rent, combined rent I am recovering, but both the lettings were inseparable. Means I cannot separately give both the assets on rent. If one asset will go on rent, automatically the other will go on rent. Letting of one asset depends on letting of another asset. Best example, the classroom in which you are sitting right now. Can you see? This is the premises which I am having. Hello. So this is a building. Premises means this is a building. And if someone wants to take this classroom on rent, automatically all these assets which you can see will also go on rent. So right now what is happening? The classroom is empty for half of the day. Classroom is empty for half of the day. So I'm giving this classroom on rent to someone else. So will that person take only premises, or automatically these assets will also go on rent? Definitely the benches are there, camera is there, computer is there, this projector is there, ACs are there. Hello, this music system, everything will go on rent together. I cannot give them on rent separately. I cannot give assets on rent to someone else and building on rent to someone else. If I am letting out one asset, by default the other asset will also go on rent. So both the lettings are Inseparable. For example, I am having one factory, and that factory has plant and machinery. So there are many assets, plant and machinery, and other assets in the factory. So the moment I'll give the factory building on rent, automatically the plant and machinery and the assets which are installed in that factory, those assets will also go on rent. So letting of one asset depends on letting of another. Getting my point? So this is a inseparable letting. So if inseparable letting is there and two assets are given on rent, letting is inseparable, and I'm getting one rent for both the assets together, combined rent, then I don't have to separate that rent. Entire combined rent will be taxable under the head PGBP. If my business was to do such type of lettings, yes or no? If my business is not to do such type of lettings, then the entire combined rent will be taxable under the head IFOS. Getting my point? So, if the lettings were separable, separate the rent for building, tax it under the head house property, and separate the rent for other asset, charge it under the head IFOS or PGBP. If the lettings are inseparable, entire composite rent I will tax under the head IFOS or PGBP as the case may be. Yes or no? Now, can I give my building on rent with facilities, amenities, services? So I am also charging, see, I am also incurring the cost of those amenities. Lift maintenance charges, I am paying CCTV charges, those charges for the maintenance of that park, watchman charges, all the charges, I will have to bear the cost. So don't you think that if you are going to take the building on rent with facilities, and for those facilities, if I'm incurring the cost, definitely I'm going to recover that cost from you only, because along with the building, you are going to enjoy those facilities. Yes or no? So if you are going to enjoy the facility of lift, if you are going to enjoy the facility of, watchmen, 24 hours security, so all these facilities, if you are going to enjoy, and I am incurring the cost on those facilities, definitely along with the rent, I am going to recover that cost also. So am I recovering the rent for the building? Yes. Along with the rent for the building, I am also recovering cost. Which cost? Cost of these facilities. So both the things taken together makes my rent what? Combined rent. Now out of this combined rent, I will have to separate the rent of building, and I will have to charge that rent under the head house property. Under the head house property, I cannot charge an amount which I cannot tax an amount which I have charged for facilities. So the amount which I am recovering towards your facilities, that amount I will have to separate from the composite rent, and I will have to charge it under the head IFOS or PGBP as the case may be. Getting my point? Hello. So what I am supposed to do? Composite rent, sum attributable to use of building, has to be taxable under the head house property, and I will have to separately charge the amount which I am recovering for facilities under the head IFOS or PGBP. Will you remember this? This was your combined rent. Now the same concept is going to come in the chapter income from other sources. In the income from other sources, this concept will come. That time, I'm not going to explain this, saying this, but I will have to make you, recollect this thing, because by that time you will forget. Under the head IFOS, this concept will again be tested. Okay. So right now, did you understand? Composite rent over. Now, the last section, section 27, talks about deemed owners. So what is the meaning of deemed owners? So you are not the actual or the legal owner of the property, but for the purpose of house property, you will be deemed as owner, and the income of the house property will be chargeable in your hands. So we will charge the income in your hands, even if you are not the owner of the property. See, what is required? Three conditions are important. You should have a house property, you should be the owner of that house property, and the house property should not be used by you for your own business or profession. Only then you charge the income of that house property under this head. But what if you are not the legal owner of the property? Can the house property income, can that income be charged under this head? The answer is no. But there are certain cases which are covered in section 27, in which even if you are not the legal owner of the property, still the income of that property will be chargeable in your hands only, because in this situation we will deem that you are the owner of the property. So the income we want to charge in your hands, but bloody you are not the legal owner. So how we will charge that income in your hands if you are not the legal owner? We will have to make you a deemed owner. And if we will consider you as a deemed owner of that property, then only we will be able to charge that income in your hands under the head house property. So there are 5 situations. How many situations? In these 5 situations, even if you are not the legal owner of the property, still you will only be treated as the owner, and the income of that property will be taxable in your hands only under the head house property. So what are those cases? One by one we are going to check those cases. Okay. Number 1. If you are an individual, if you have transferred your property to your spouse. So an individual has transferred the property to his spouse without taking adequate consideration and without an agreement to. So if I am an individual and I have transferred my property to my wife, so the income tax officer will ask me, sir, why all of a sudden you have transferred your property to your wife? You have not taken any consideration. Have you taken any consideration from your wife? I will say, no, I have not taken any consideration. Oh, so you are living apart? No, we are living together only. Same place, we are living together only. Then why the bloody hell you have transferred your property to your spouse? See, we will tell you why you have transferred your property to your spouse. Sir, you are already an assessee. You are already an assessee who is earning more than 10 lakh rupees. You are already an assessee earning more income, and your incomes are taxed at 30% rate. Which rate? Now, whatever extra income you are going to earn on your name, that income will also be taxable at 30% rate, because you are already an assessee who is covered by 30% slab. Getting my point? So you don't want your incomes which you are earning over and above 10 lakhs to be charged at 30%. You want to save that 30% tax, sir. So to do that, what you have done, you have transferred your property on the name of your spouse without taking adequate consideration, without an agreement to live apart. If you have gifted your property to your spouse, now what will happen, See, if this property was earning 5 lakh rupees of income, how much income this property was earning? So 5 lakh used to get taxed, used to be taxable in your hands. And at that time, on that 5 lakh, you were supposed to pay 30% tax, because you are already an assessee who is covered in 30% slab. So on this 5 lakh, you had to pay how much? 30%, meaning 1,50,000 tax you were paying, sir. Now to save that tax, what you have done? You have transferred the property on the name of your spouse. Now who is the legal owner? Your spouse. Who will earn the income? 5 lakh rupees? Your spouse. And in whose total income the income will be counted? Your spouse. Now this income will become the income of your spouse and will be taxable in the hands of spouse. 2,50,000 basic exemption. Balance 2,50,000 only 5%. Tax is 12,500. And see, your wife is a resident individual. Total income 5 lakh rupees or less, she will get the rebate. Entire tax which you have calculated will go for rebate. Will she pay any tax? No. On that 5 lakh, if you would have earned that income on your name, if you would have been the owner, you would have earned that income on your name, that would have been taxed at what rate? 30%, and the government would have got 1,50,000 rupees of tax. Now just the smart move, and see, the government is losing the entire 1,50,000 of his tax revenue. Getting my point? Just imagine, if out of the total population in India, if 10,000 people also start doing this, sir, population is about to reach 150 crores. India's population, yes or no? Out of 150 crores, sir, we don't expect that everyone will be doing this, but just like you, in the entire India, if we have only 10,000 people also, no, sir, 10,000 people saving 1,50,000 rupees of tax. How much tax? 15 crores. And if 1 lakh people start doing it, 150 crores. Getting my point? That will be the amount of tax which the government is going to lose because of this type of transaction. So, sir, whatever you are doing, no, because of that, the government is losing tax. So, do one thing. Have you transferred your property to your spouse? Now, who is the legal owner? Your spouse is the legal owner. But we don't want to charge this income in the hands of your spouse. We want to charge this income in your hands only. So what we are going to do? Even if you are no more the legal owner of the property, but since we want to charge this income in your hands only, so that we keep on getting that tax which we used to get. How much? 1,50,000 from you only. So from you only we want the tax on that income. But we'll be able to charge only if you are the owner, no? But you are no more an owner. Hence, under section 27, for such type of properties, you will be deemed as owner. And the income of this property will not be taxable in the hands of your spouse. It will be rather taxable in your hands only. Because see, now we have deemed as if you are the owner of the property. Got it, sir? So earlier, the income used to be taxed in your total income and you were paying tax. So now after making you the deemed owner, this income will again come back in your total income and you are only going to pay tax. Got it, sir? So did you understand this first transaction? In the first transaction, what is happening? If there is an individual, he has transferred his property to his spouse without taking adequate consideration, without an agreement to, if you see any such case, then in this case, the transferor individual, even if he is not the legal owner of the property, as per section 27, he will be deemed as the owner of the property. Yes or no? And the income of that property will not be taxable in the hands of spouse, it will be taxable in the hands of individual, transferor individual, because he is treated as deemed owner. Yes, sir? Now, to save yourself from this, what you can do? No. Consideration, why I would receive from my wife? She's my wife. I cannot take any consideration from her. I have to go home. No. What I will do, me and my wife, we both have a small child. Minor. Where that minor will be living? At my home only. See, earlier when I used to transfer that property on the name of my spouse, did the property leave me? It was still with me because me and my wife are staying together. So the property is still in my control. Earlier, the property was in my control, but it was on my name. So the income was coming on my name. So I had to pay tax at higher rates. Getting my point? So to avoid that thing to happen, I still needed that property in my control. I transferred the property on the name of my spouse. So if the property is transferred on the name of my spouse, that property is still in my control only. Hello? And where the income will go? that will still come in my household only. Why? Because me and my wife, we both are staying together. So the income of that property is going to come to me only at my household. Earlier that income was coming on my name, but now that income will be coming on the name of my wife, my spouse. Yes or no? So to do that, now what I will do? Me and my wife, we both have a minor child. We both have a minor child. Where is the minor child? He is living with us only. Hello? So what I will do? I will now transfer the property to my minor child. Now I will transfer the property on the name of my minor child. Minor child is a separate individual. I am a separate individual. Minor child is a separate individual. Two individuals means two separate persons. So earlier, I had the property, so the income was coming on my name, in my control. Property was in my control and the income was coming in my hands. Okay, but the income was coming on my name because the property was on my name. So I just shifted the ownership of the property on the name of my minor. Shifting the ownership on the name of my minor child. Now what happened? Minor child stays with me only. The property is still with me. Income of the property will still come in my household only. And that income will be in my control only. Getting my point? So in this case, if I have given the property, if I have transferred the property on the name of my minor without taking, don't you think here also the government will lose the tax? Now who is earning the income? Minor. So the income will be taxable in the hands of minor at very low rates, or there will be no tax at all. But if that income would have come on my name, I would have paid higher tax to the government. To shift that tax from my head and don't pay that tax at all, or pay a very less tax on the name of my minor child, I would have transferred that property on the name of my minor child also. So what they are saying, that sir, since you have transferred your property without adequate consideration to your minor, now who is the legal owner? Minor. But for the purpose of chargeability of this income in your hands, we will not treat your minor child as owner. You will only be treated as the deemed owner. Because here also the government is going to lose the tax. Getting my point? So two cases. Number one, if an individual is there, is transferring the property on the name of spouse without taking adequate consideration and without an agreement to live apart, or that individual has transferred the property on the name of minor child without taking any consideration, then in both these cases the individual who is transferor individual, even if he is not the owner of the property, but for the purpose of charging the income of this property in his hands, he will be deemed as owner of such property. Got it, sir? Two cases clear. Third case. Now, one question I am getting. Should I ask that question? But before that, the property is transferred on the name of minor. Property is transferred on the name of your minor. Should not be a handicap minor. Minor should not be a minor married daughter. If the minor is a handicap minor, you will not be treated as a deemed owner. We will not treat you a deemed owner. If the minor was a minor married daughter, then also we are not going to treat you deemed owner. Then the income of that property will be the income of that minor child only. Yes or no? Hello. If the minor is handicap minor or the minor is minor married daughter, then section 27 will not apply and you will not be treated as deemed owner. So what is the logic for this? Logic you will come to know in clubbing chapter. So right now, just remember these two things, these two exceptions. If any other minor is there, the minor is not a handicap, minor is not a minor married daughter, and to such minor, if you have transferred your property, only then you will be treated as deemed owner. Yes or no? Now one question is coming. Question is, sir, Here also, if you can see, the property is transferred. Here also, if you can see, the property is transferred. Only then you are treated as, now what I'll do, instead of buying the property on my name and then transferring, I will directly buy the property on the name of my spouse or minor child. Possible or not? So I have money to buy the property. If I buy that property on my name and then transfer that property on the name of my spouse or minor child, then I will be treated as no. So instead of doing that, I gifted cash to my spouse. I transferred money on the name of my spouse. I transferred money on the name of my minor child, meaning I have gifted cash to my spouse or minor child. And now I'm buying the property with that money on their name only. Possible? Will I be treated as a deemed owner? Yes or no? So everyone will start doing it. What is happening? Instead of buying the property on my name and then transferring the property, if I do that, I will be treated as deemed owner. I did not do that. I had money to buy the property. I gifted that money to my spouse. I gifted that money to my minor child. And with that money, the property was directly bought on the name of my spouse or minor child. Possible, not possible? In that case, Section 27 will not apply. Section 27 will apply only if property is transferred. So earlier the property was on your name and you have transferred the property, only then Section 27 will be applicable. But the property was not on your name only, you have not transferred the property, directly the property is bought on the name of minor child or spouse. Then for such property, you will not be treated as deemed owner. Then sir, what is the point? Everyone will do that only, no? Don't worry. Clubbing provisions will take care of that. Which provisions? So there are clubbing provisions. Because of those clubbing provisions, income of that property will be clubbed in your total income. So if the clubbing provision takes care of that situation, so why to make you deemed owner? By applying the clubbing provisions, we are anyways going to include that income in your total income. We are anyways charging that income in your total income by applying the clubbing provision. Why to make you deemed owner? And if we'll make you deemed owner for such properties, what will happen? By applying the clubbing, the income will be taxable. And by making you the deemed owner also, the same income will be taxable. So one income will be taxed twice. That should not happen. So we are charging that income once by applying the clubbing provision. Then why to charge that income by making you the deemed owner again? Getting my point? In those cases, you will not be treated as deemed owner. Will you remember this? Sure. In clubbing, no, I will again link up these two cases over there. Yes or no? And especially the minors case. Because two minors are exception. Why two minors are exception? Why not here? Why not deemed owner? Everything you learn in clubbing. Yes or no? So, third case is assessee is the holder. He just holds. He's not the owner. He's not the legal owner. Assessee just holds an asset, any property. But that property was impartable estate. So there is a building, there is a property. That property is impartable estate, and you are just the holder of that property. You are not the legal owner of that property. You are just the holder. So even if you are the holder of that impartable estate, you only will be treated as deemed owner. Now, what is an impartable estate? What is an impartable estate? A property which could not be partitioned. The property whose partition did not happen or cannot happen. Yes or no? So such type of property which cannot be partitioned, whose partition was not done, that property is known as what? Impartable estate. And if you are just holding that property, taking the decisions of that property, then you should only be treated as the owner of that property. Because you are holder of that property, taking the decisions, having the control over that property. Now I'll give you one example. There was Mr. X. He died. At the time of his death, no, he made his will. In that will, what he is doing, he's transferring all his assets to his three sons, A, B, and C. All the assets, bank balance, assets, this, that, everything he distributed, he partitioned in his three sons. This property will belong to my eldest son, this property will belong to my second son, these assets will belong to my third son. After I die, give these assets to A. After I die, give these assets to B. After I die, give these assets to C. Likewise, a will was made. But in that will, no, he did not transfer an ancestral house. There was one ancestral house. He did not want any single son to be the owner of that property. Because all the brothers had fond memories. And that property, if transferred, if given to a single son, other sons will feel bad. Let's see, Appa has given the property to the eldest brother. Even we are brothers, and it is our ancestral property, so we should also have got that property. But instead of giving that property to us, Appa has given the property to eldest brother. So other two will feel bad. And everyone and their family has fond memories. So Mr. X wanted all of them to enjoy that property. So that property was not given to any son. That property was not given to any son. So no partition happened. No partition. All of them had to enjoy that property together. So families of all three brothers and three brothers can jointly enjoy that property. Getting my point? But nobody was the owner of that property. Now what happened? In that impartable estate, the eldest son, after the death of the father, the eldest son in the family becomes the head of the family. Yes or no? So that eldest son took that property in his control and he was taking the decisions of that property. Getting my point? So that ancestral property will become the property of that eldest son? No. He will become the owner? No. He just holds the property on behalf of the entire family and he just takes the decisions regarding that property. Getting my point? On behalf of the entire family, he just holds the property and takes the decision. He holds the property. He has the control over that property. That's it. But he is not the owner. Getting my point? So, what if such type of property is given on rent? Who should pay tax on the rent of that property? Somebody should be made liable to pay tax on income of that property. But nobody was the owner of that property. So do one thing. The person who is holding that property, person who is having control over that property, who takes the decisions regarding that property, that should be the correct person who should be made liable to pay tax on the income of that property because he holds the property. He takes the decisions regarding that property. Yes or no? So if the eldest son holds the impartable property, takes the control, even if he is not the legal owner, being a holder, he will be deemed as the owner of the property. Because somebody should be made liable to pay tax on the income of this property. If in future this property is given on rent, who will pay the tax? We should define it clearly in the beginning only. Because later on we don't want that everyone, all the brothers say that see, I am not the legal owner, I am not going to pay tax. That is, somebody should be there to pay tax on the income of this property, if any income is earned from this property. Yes or no? So who will be the owner? The person who is holding such impartable estate will be deemed to be the owner. Third case, you understood? Now come to the fourth case. Now if assessee is allowed to take or retain the possession of a property. See, you are an assessee. You are given the possession of the property. You have just got the possession of the property. Legal ownership is yet to be transferred on your name. If you are a buyer, you have bought the property. Will you enter into a sale agreement with the seller? Tell me yes or no. I am a seller, you are a buyer. You are buying a property from me. So we will enter into a sale agreement. Now in that sale agreement, there will be some part which as a buyer you will have to perform. And in that same sale agreement, there will be some part which as a seller I will have to perform. So that sale agreement, some part has to be performed by the buyer, some part has to be performed by the seller. What part you are going to perform? You are going to give me the consideration, or you are going to take the liability to pay me the consideration. So either pay me the consideration or take a liability to pay me the consideration. So that is the part which you will have to perform. Now, what part I will have to perform in return? I will have to give you the possession and transfer the property to you. So if you pay me the consideration, I will give you the possession. If you pay me the consideration, I will give you the possession, and after some time, we'll get the property registered on your name. After some time, I will transfer the legal ownership. Possible? So your part you will perform. So in return, I will perform my part. What was your part? Giving the consideration. Yes or no? Pay me the consideration. If you have performed that part, so what part I will perform? I will give you the peaceful possession of the property, and later on, I will transfer the legal ownership on your name. Sometimes what happens, buyer and seller will enter into a sale agreement. Buyer has performed his part, seller has performed his part, possession is given, but the property is not registered. Legal ownership is not yet transferred. Do you know that to transfer that legal ownership, you and me, we both will have to go to the registrar office with the sale agreement, and that registrar will register the sale agreement. Then only the legal ownership of that property will be transferred on your name. In their records, my name is there as a legal owner. They will remove my name as the owner, and they will put your name in their records as the owner of the property. If that happens, that is known as registration of property on your name. That time you will become what? Legal owner. Getting my point? But don't you think this registration, this transfer of legal title, it will take some time? How much time? Maybe 2 months, maybe a year, maybe 2 years, maybe 5 years, or it may not be transferred also. Why does it take so much time? See, you give me consideration, I give you possession, sale agreement we have entered, okay, enjoy the property, no? And if we'll go to the register to get the property registered on your name, don't you think that the registrar will charge stamp duty? Registration charges will be incurred. How much is the stamp duty registration charges, 5 to 7% in every state. So different states will have different stamp duty rates, different registration charges. Minimum 5%, any state you go. And if I say that we have to incur 5% of the agreement value as what? Stamp duty. Just imagine if the property which I have transferred is having a huge value. Property's value was 100 crores. How much? So this big property having such a huge selling price, huge consideration, 5% of that will be 5 crores. If you think from the point of view of the selling price, this is a very small amount. But still this is a big amount because the amount is 5 crores. 5 crores for what? Just going to the registrar and telling him that register the property. What he will do? He will sit on the table. Okay, you want to register this property? Who was the owner? Oh, Umang sir, you are the owner. Oh, who wants to become the owner? Oh, student, you want to become the owner? No problem. He will remove my name from the register as the legal owner and he will put your name in his register as owner. For this simple thing, he will charge 5 crores. So let's save that 5 crores, no? Hello? You want to enjoy the property as owner? Hello? I want to sell the property, you want to buy the property and you want to enjoy the property as owner. So do one thing, no, you perform your part of the contract, I will perform my part. So I will allow you to take the possession, you pay me the consideration, sale transaction done. No need to go and get the property registered on your name. No need to go and take the legal ownership. What I'll do, you know, we will execute a power of attorney and the power of attorney I'll give on your name. Enough. See, this is a risky thing to do because in future, the title of the property can be disputed by anyone. But if someone wants to enjoy that property as owner only, does not want to take the legal ownership, does not want to pay the stamp duty, people can do that also. So just the legal ownership is not transferred. That does not mean that the property is not with you. You have taken the property in your possession. And as an owner, the moment you have taken the possession of the property, as an owner, you are enjoying the property. The property is in your complete control. You are taking all the decisions of the property. So just because the legal ownership is not transferred, registration is not done on your name, that does not mean that you are not the owner of the property. That is, the moment the possession has come to you, you are enjoying the property as what? Owner. It's just that paperwork is remaining, registration is remaining. That does not make me as the owner because I have transferred the property on your name. Getting my point? Just the legal documentation is pending. So it is pending for 2 months, it is pending for 2 years. Bloody, it can be pending for the lifetime. So for the lifetime, Umang sir will be the legal owner of the property. Why? Because the property is never registered on your name. But who is enjoying the property? The person who has taken the possession, this buyer. Now he has the property in the control. Who will enjoy the property? Buyer. Who has the possession? Buyer. Who has the control over the property? Buyer. Who will take the decision of the property? Buyer. Then why not to make this buyer as the owner? Just because the buyer is not the legal owner, that does not mean that the buyer is not the owner of the property. Now the property is in his control. Getting my point? So forget about registration. Forget about the moment you will take the possession, the moment you will take or retain the possession of the property, even if the legal title is not transferred on your name, even if the registration of that property is not done on your name, the moment you will take the possession, you will be deemed as owner. You will be deemed as owner of that property. Getting my point, everyone? So, are you an assessee? Are you an assessee? Have you taken the possession of the property in part performance of a contract of the nature referred in 53A of Transfer of Property Act? What is section 53A of Transfer of Property Act? This section says that there has to be two parties. There has to be an agreement in writing. That agreement can be a sale agreement or it can be any agreement. Buyer has given the possession, buyer has given the consideration and seller has given the possession. So that makes the property transfer complete. as per 53A, when the transfer of the property will be treated as complete transfer, when all these conditions are met. Number one, agreement in writing. Number two, buyer has given the consideration. Number three, seller has given the possession. If all these conditions are met, it is as good as property is transferred. And if the property is transferred as per the law, which law? Transfer of Property Act. Just the legal documentation or registration remaining will not make the transferor the owner, will make the transferee as the owner of the property. So I have transferred the property, I am no more the owner. You took the possession. Now from now onwards, under the Income Tax Act, you will be treated as the owner of the property, even if the legal ownership is not transferred on your name. Still, the moment you will take the possession, you will be treated as the deemed owner. Done, sir? Now see, the transfer would include following cases. So few example of this type of transfer. Yes or no? See, possession of the property is handed over to the buyer. Consideration for the transfer of the property is paid or agreed to be paid to the seller. And sale deed is not registered. However, certain documents like power of attorney, will, gift deed, agreement to sell, etc. are only in existence. No legal registration papers. Got it? Do you remember? Last case. If assessee is there, assessee is a lessee. He has taken the property on lease from any person. That person who is giving the property on lease is a lessor. And you are taking the property on lease, you are a lessee. Now you are taking the property on lease on a long-term basis. What basis? When it will be said that the property is taken on lease on a long-term basis? When you take the property on lease for minimum 12 years or more. So have you taken the property on lease? Yes. For how much period? 12 years or more. Meaning that you have taken the property on long-term lease. Now, whenever the property is given on a lease of 12 years or more, 12 years or more, this assessee acquires a right, or with respect to the right in leased property. Who will acquire this right? Assessee. What right you will acquire? Now, for the period, entire lease period, you will enjoy the property as if you are the owner. You are the person who is having the right to occupy the property. The moment the property is given on a lease of 12 years or more, the person taking the property on lease will get the right. What type of right you will get? Right to have that property in your occupation, meaning you will get the right to occupy the property. Now, even if the legal owner will come and he will tell you that vacate the property, he cannot tell you. He does not have that right, because for the entire lease period, now you got the right to occupy that property. Occupancy right is given to you. Even the legal owner cannot compel you to vacate the property for that lease period. So why would anyone do that? Yeah, if I am a lessor, I have one property, and that property I have given you on lease for 20 years. Is it a long term or a short term? Because the lease term is 12 months or 12 years or more. 20 years lease, I have given the property to you. Why would I give my property for 20 years lease? Because in these type of transactions, what happens now? You give me a lease premium in the beginning, a heavy amount of lease premium in the beginning. See, you want to buy the property, but you don't have that much money because the property is very costly. But you want to enjoy the property as if you are the owner. So if you come and buy the property, I will charge 50 crores. The value of the property is 50 crores. So 50 crores are not there with you, but you have 5 crores. But you have, with 5 crores, you cannot buy the property from me. You cannot take the ownership, because to do that, you will require 50 crores. But at least for 20 years, you can enjoy the property as owner. You approached me and you told me, sir, for 20 years, give me the right to occupy the property. Give me the right to occupy the property and give me the right to enjoy the property as if I'm the owner. Sir, I'm giving you upfront 5 crores for 20 years. Can you come and tell me? Yes. So you came and you told me, sir, I don't want to buy your property because I don't have 50 crores. I don't want to buy your property forever. Yes or no? But at least for 20 years, allow me to use your property as owner. I will say, okay, for 20 years, I can give you the property to be used as owner. Occupy my property. I will not interfere in the property. All the risk, all the rewards, entire control over that property for next 20 years will be with you. No problem, I can give you. But what will you give me in return? Sir, I will give you the rent on a regular basis, plus take this 5 crores from me upfront. Right now, I have 5 crores. I will give you entire 5 crores right now. And I will pay you the rents also. Getting my point? But give me the right for the next 20 years. I said, no problem. Anyways, I'm not going to use that property for next 20 years. And if I'm getting 5 crore rupees right now, and on a regular basis, I'm going to get rent also. Why not to give this right to the lessee? So give me 5 crores. We will enter into a lease agreement. In that lease agreement, I will say that I'm giving the right to occupy this property for how many years? 20 years. Now, the moment this lease agreement is entered, no, now you get the exclusive control over that property. You get the occupancy right of the property. Now, even if I want, I cannot take the occupation. I cannot occupy that property because that occupancy right itself I have transferred. Getting my point? And that is transferred only if the property is given on a lease for 12 years or more. Less than 12 years, occupancy right cannot be given. 12 years or more, the lease term is there, occupancy right gets transferred. Yes or no? So tell me, who is the lessee? You are the lessee. I am the lessor. Am I giving you the right to occupy the property? Am I giving you the right to enjoy the property as owner for the entire lease term, entire lease period? You will enjoy the property as if you are the, I will not come and interfere because that right I'm giving you. I cannot interfere in the property. Yes or no? For 20 years, consider as if you are the owner of the property. Occupy. And if you want that somebody else could occupy, you can also give the property on, because you have got the right to occupy. Legal ownership I have not given. Legal ownership is still with me. So who is the legal owner? Lessor is still the legal owner. But for these 20 years, this legal owner cannot do anything with this property because the entire right is given. Getting my point? So tell me, 5 crores you are going to give me right now, lease premium and rent on a regular basis you are going to give me. For me, my rental income and the lease premium is my house property income because I am giving my property on rent, lease, yes or no? So that lease premium and the rental income which I will get will be my house property income. But now for 20 years, exclusively the property will be available with you. It will be under your control. All the risk and rewards and the entire control of the property will be with you. Now do whatever you want with this property. I'll not come for these 20 years. Now tell me, within these 20 years, if you give the property on rent, you start earning income of this property. Who should pay tax? Legal owner or you? But you are not the legal owner. As per section 27, you will be treated as a deemed owner. Only then the income of that property during that period can be charged in your hands if you are earning any income from that property. Getting my point? Hello, sir. 12 years or more. 12 years or. But what if I have given you the property on lease for less than 12 years? Will it be a long-term lease? Will you get the right? Till you can get the right. Original term is 12 years or more, then definitely it is a long-term lease. You will get the right. Yes or no? But what if the original term is less than 12 years? Will you get the right? You can get, provided there is a clause in the lease agreement, extension or renewal clause. So when we will enter into the lease agreement, instead of writing 20 years, what I'll say? Let's write 10 years. Let's write. And after the expiry of 10 years, no, this lease agreement can be renewed for another 10 years. That renewal is also mentioned in lease agreement. That renewal is also mentioned in how much time? 10 years. And how much is original time? Which is less than 12. So 10 plus 10. Total is, it is still 12 years or more. It will be still treated as long-term lease. And here also the right will come. Here also the right will come. See, if the original lease term, if the is 12 years or more, then it is a long-term lease. You will get the right. But what if the original lease term is less than equal to 12 years? Still you can get that right. Provided the original lease term plus the extension of lease after the expiry of both these periods taken together is 12 years or more. Then also it will be treated as a long-term lease, and in such cases also the lessee gets the right. It is not necessary that the original lease term should be 12 years or more. If it is 12 years or more, definitely it is a long-term lease and the lessee will get the right. But if the original lease term is less than what? 12 years. Less than, still that right can come to the lessee. Provided that original lease term which is less than 12 years plus the extension in lease after the expiry of that extension time plus original time, both these periods taken together, if this total period is also 12 years or more, the lessee gets that right. Getting my point? But remember, the original lease term has to be 1 year or more. If it is less than 12 years, but make sure that the original lease term should be more than 1 year. So original lease term 1 year or more, yes, plus the extension in lease term after that period expires, that entire period should be 12 years or more. But for that, original lease term should be less than 12 years, but it has to be 1 year or more. Only then the extension period will be added, and only then this total is greater than or equal to 12 years. Only then this assessee, lessee will get the right. You might have heard that agreements for the property are usually made for 11 months. Have you heard about it? Whenever you take property on rent from someone, no, that the person giving the property will make a leave and license agreement, rent agreement for 11 months only. Why 11 months? Because if it becomes 12 months or more, 1 year or more, and by mistake, if there is a clause in the lease agreement for extension, that extension and 1 year time or more time, both taken together, if it comes, the tenant will get the right for that period. Now the property will be gone from the hands of owner. So usually the owners make sure that if we are giving the property on rent to someone, no, we should not be giving it for 12 months or more at once. We'll give it only for 11 months. So the period is less than 12. Period is less than 12 months. Period is less than 1 year. Yes or no? If this period is less than 1 year, right cannot go. Occupancy right cannot go. Occupancy right will go only if the original period is 1 year or more and the extension period in the lease, both taken together, is 12 years or, getting my point? So first case, I'm giving you the property on rent for 15 years. Is it a long-term lease? Will you get the right? You will be the deemed owner. During that entire 15 years, you will be the deemed owner of the property. Yes or no? Second case, I'm giving you a property on rent. Property on for 10 years only. How much? No extension clause. In the rent agreement, no extension clause. Then extension is 0. Original period is 10. 10 plus 0, less than 12 only. Will you get the right? You are not the deemed owner. You are not the. But what if original period was 10 years? Original period was, and in the lease agreement I have written that after the expiry of the original term, the lease agreement can be further extended for another 10 years. So 10 years original time plus how much is the extension? 10 plus 10. Is it more than 12? You get the right. You become the deemed owner. Yes or no? But I've given you the property on lease for 11 months. And in the rent agreement, I have written that the lease period can be extended up to 2050. After the expiry of lease term, 11 months, hello, the lease, this same lease agreement can be renewed till 2050. So I am giving the property on rent in this year. Hello, in this year. But what is the original lease term? 11 months. After the expiry of this, it can be renewed till, so more 25 years. Getting my point? So extension term is 25, but original term is less than 1 year. Will you get any right? No right. Hence, not a deemed owner. If I say that I am giving you the property on rent for 2 years, how much is the original term? After the expiry of 2 years, no, this lease agreement, this rent agreement can be further extended till 2050. So original time 2 years. After 2 years will expire, for another 23 years, the lease can be extended. So 23 plus 2, because now this period is 1 year or more. Getting my point? So the total period is, will you get the right? Till 2050, now you will get the right. So now you will be treated as deemed owner. Getting my point, everyone? So this was your last case, and this is the end of chapter. Got it? This is the end of chapter. Tomorrow. See, the regular rent no will be very less amount, because upfront I am giving you 5 crores, no? For that 20 years I am giving you 5 crores. So So that 5 crores will be apportioned over that 20 years. That will not be taxed at once. So slowly and gradually out of that 5 crores, some amount will be taxable in this year, some amount will be taxable in the next year, because that 5 crores you have not received for a single year, you have received it for 20 years. That amount will be taxable under the head house property only, because that is the rent for your property only, which you are getting in the form of lease premium at once. And the regular rents which you are going to get now will not be a huge amount, will be a very small amount, because upfront I have given you 5 crores. It is a very huge amount. Getting my point? So entire amount for you will be treated as house property income. Regular rents which you are going to get will be taxable under the head house property, but out of the lease premium, proportionate amounts every year will be taken as your house property income. Got it? Sir? Now see, here, this chapter comes to an end. I guess tomorrow you have a test, no? 2 chapters. This chapter will be again in test on Monday. By that time, prepare this chapter properly. Okay. And what I'll do, I'll try to identify few questions, extra questions from this chapter for your practice, and I will pass on those questions so that you practice those questions also. Yes or no? If you will practice, it is for you, because whatever questions I will send, no, will be from MTPs, RTPs and past exams. I'll not give you too many questions, but few questions, 5, 6 questions or maximum 10 questions I will give you extra from this chapter. If you will practice those questions, what will happen? You will get a confidence that what type of questions are actually asked in the exams and whether you are able to solve those exam questions or not. Getting my point? MTPs, RTPs and past year question papers. I will identify few questions and I will give you. Okay. But before that, on Sunday you are supposed to appear for test for this chapter. Okay. So we'll end this chapter. Now we'll start with the new chapter.